Hello and welcome everybody to the AI-powered Human Video Podcast Challenge. I am your host, Darby Rollins, and today we will be kicking off the challenge, which will be the theme and the main event for our Gen AI University community. We'll be supporting you guys every week with weekly check-ins and coaching calls to helping you make progress forward on your goals. As always, we're going to keep calm AI on here and dig into things while spotlighting a few of our members that are going to be taking on this challenge to create a video podcast that will connect with your ideal target audience and engage with your community and with your clients and your customers to build that relationship and trust online through video, and ultimately just getting you better at being out there in front of a camera and sharing your thoughts, because in the world like it is today with AI, with all the noise out there, it's going to be more important than ever now to be able to cut through the noise and to be able to make those direct connections with those that you can help and serve through your business. And that is why I believe video podcasting is an extremely powerful mechanism for creating content. It's extremely leveraged in terms of the time you spent creating video, the relationships you can build through video podcasting, and then being able to repurpose that content and distribute it across multiple different channels, building an omnipresent presence online. And again, you're investing in yourself, you're gaining skills every time you show up in front of a camera. And by doing so, you're showing up for those that are there to watch and learn from you, and then maybe one day work with you inside of what you're doing in your business, or at the very least, they're sharing what you're doing with other people that they know that you can help, because again, you're building that relationship with people and you're putting a face to it. And I say we're putting a face to it because there is a lot of ways that you can create video related content. Some content channels don't even have a person behind them. It's a voice. And nowadays it could just be an AI voice. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's gonna be a lot of really great and really powerful pieces of content that we're gonna see, and models that are based off of this that are replicating real influencers and real creators and real thought leaders, and replicating their voice and cloning it with AI and creating content off of that. And while there's also the dark side of this, which as you can see with celebrities and deep fakes and things of that nature, there's also a positive side of this, because it's allowing us to scale up our content. And by doing that, scaling up our message to get a positive message and make a positive impact out there in the world. But also, I don't see AI replacing the one-to-one human connection like you see me talking to you right now. Maybe one day AI is going to be able to do this, but this is actually me. I'm a real human, and I'm excited to be sharing with you this challenge and hosting it, because during this challenge, I'm going to be participating right along there with you. And over the next 7 days, between this time I'm recording this and next week, I'm going to have recorded all of my content and started the process of posting it in line with the launch of our book that's coming up on March 14th for the buyer's brief. And so we're going to be walking through what I'm going to be doing, but I also want to hear from you guys here inside of our community and what you're going to be building, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And the goal of Gen AI University is to help with everybody rise the tide of all ships, help all the ships rise from the tide today. And here I am at perfect time to say it is incredible. Kelly, for jumping to join us, because Kelly is going to be right there every week supporting you guys inside of the challenge. She's going to be going along with the challenge too, and I got her own goals and her own processes she's going to be breaking down. And so every week we're meeting, we're going to be sharing, we're going to be checking in. And again, we're doing this because we're doing this as a productive activity that's designed to help grow our business, but also grow ourselves as humans, and get better at the skill of communication. And again, there's a lot of value to being an effective communicator on camera. There's a reason why speakers are one of the highest paid roles out there. Public speaking is huge, and video podcasting is yet another way for you to potentially land some speaking gigs, which we may have a special guest up to share what they're going to be doing during this challenge as well. But Kelly, welcome in, and I'm excited for you to be joining us, and everybody else here, Tyrese, Kevin, Chris, joining us live here for the challenge kickoff.
I'm super excited to be here. And I have to tell you, and I think for those of you that have been on some of the boot camp calls, I've been like really transparent about this challenge. And, people have been asking like, what is your YouTube subscribers and, things like that. Darby, I don't have a YouTube channel. Did
Oh
you
my
know that?
gosh. What?
So I think this is super fun. And what I love about this and this dynamic that we're going to be seeing through this challenge is that like you've obviously done some really great things. I know you've been focusing on growing your YouTube channel and things like that. And you've even found some things I think that you're finding are working, which I know you're going to be sharing as part of this challenge with the community. And for anybody who's like, I don't have a YouTube channel, hello, like I'm joining in on this challenge because when he was like, let's do this challenge, I was like, yeah, I actually need to create a YouTube channel and get some content up there.
And I said that before because I was kind of surprised that you didn't have one already. I was like, whoa, Kelly, what are you doing? You need one. Like, this is perfect for you. You're already so good at teaching and sharing.
I know. It's funny and it's a little embarrassing. My face is probably going to match my sweater in a minute if we keep talking about it. But I realize just like the opportunity that I'm missing. And I love being able to jump into this, like, is literally a newbie. Like, I think there's just so much in this space. Obviously, like you said, where, I've been leading and I've been like teaching and things like that. And for everybody joining the challenge, like I am with you all, right? Like I get to be a newbie in this space and totally, literally start from ground zero.
Let's do
And
a head count too while we're here. Who and drop in the comments if you're watching the recording, who has thought about starting a YouTube channel but just hasn't gotten it going yet, or you've got one going right now and maybe you have a few subs. Share a little bit about where you're at with this process.
let me know I'm not alone.
Let's see. Yeah, so we got a few people coming in here. We got Chris has got one barely with anything on it, like 50 subs. But hey, there we go. We're already getting started. I've seen Chris posting some videos, and you're dropping some fire for the right people. And so throughout this process, don't get lost in thinking that because you don't have a channel doesn't mean that you don't have anything to share. The thing is you do, but you just aren't getting it out to the right people. And that's where we need more distribution for our content. And now we need to use AI to help us with removing a lot of those roadblocks there. But it's also not about quantity. It's about quality. I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but if you have a YouTube channel and you're selling a certain services here, and then you go buy 10,000 odd like people to subscribe and like your channel, in some cases that can be a vanity metric. Yes, I know that you can make money from monetizing a YouTube channel, but most of us here have a business that we're using the YouTube channel to get more of our content for what we know and how we can help people out there. And so it's more about finding the right people than it is just finding more people. If you have a lot of people that can even just watch your content, but they would never be the person that actually works with you, then like, cool, there's a place for that too. But we're talking about creating content that's going to speak directly to your target audience and using the buyer's brief to help with generating those deep insights and understanding of whatever target market you're going to be going at, but removing those barriers from getting the content created in the first place to then getting it out there, connecting, and then getting that data back so that we can refine our messaging based on what's actually landing with the market.
And that's what I'm so excited about, is just like knowing that on this journey, so much of us, I think, start with just content in general, but especially like video content and things like that, with feeling like we're throwing spaghetti on the walls, right? Like, do they want to see a video about this? Should I talk about this? So many people in our community are just experts in so many different areas. It's like, what do they actually want to see? And I will share a secret. I have a viral video that is out there. I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but it was an Instagram reel that I also put on TikTok, and the thing went viral. It has like, I don't know, last time I checked, it had like 1.7 million views or something like that.
Wow.
But let me just say, it had nothing to do with my business. Like, it was just this totally random thing. And I remember thinking like, wow, if I actually had thought or had planned and didn't just do some random video, like imagine what that could have done for my business. So I love that, you're going to really be leading us with, we have the buyer's blueprint. We have so much insight about our businesses that we've run. now how do we turn that into video content that we know is going to speak to who we want to attract, that we know is going to align with what we want to get out of a YouTube channel, right? Like, sure, I want to be on YouTube, but like, why? Right? And making sure that our content is in alignment with that, which I think is why I've held off for so long, because it's just a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work, and it's a big risk to take time to record all of these videos and edit them and then have them get like 11 views, right? And I think that that's part of the fear maybe, and part of what's kept me from actually creating a YouTube channel and YouTube content, is because I was like, well, where do I start? You know, is it just this like throw everything into the wind and see where it where it lands? But I think what you've crafted and what you're going to kind of lead us through is really going to be like a guaranteed way to ensure that we've got our content up, and like you said, our content is really in alignment with who we want to attract and like what we want to achieve.
Yeah, and that's where we want to start with this, as we would start with any challenge. And those of you that have followed us over the past few years, you may have been here since the start, when we were just kicking off with Jasper, then called Jarvis, then called Conversion AI, and we started using it for books. And that is essentially what led into the evolution of Gen AI University today, was the 7-day book challenge. And before writing a book, much less using AI for it, book was a huge, massive undertaking. And it's really easy to get caught up in how big a task can be, that we never get started taking the daily steps to just writing on a daily basis. And then maybe crunch time comes and say, hey, I need to get this book out ASAP. How do we actually get that and get those results fast without all of the overwhelm that will just balloon and take up all the space we give it, right? So the more we sit, the more we think, the bigger it can get, then we never even start to attack this monster. But what we've found is a very effective framework for, yes, books, but ultimately a book is an info product. A video is an info product that you're putting out there. It's starting with the end in mind, so that you know, what does success look like and what does the end of this look like? Well, it's a book. You got chapter 1 through chapter 10. And at the end of the book, saying, cool, here's some more resources. Here's where you can dig in even more if you want to. But before you even start, before you can write a single word, we have to start with why. And Simon Sinek has a great video on YouTube about this, with starting with why and leading with that question and answering it first for yourself, so you can really get clear on like, what's the purpose of this in the first place? And sometimes you'll find that when you really sit with your why, that the thing that you were going to set out to do wasn't actually aligned with where you wanted to go anyways. And especially right now, when it's so easy to go fast with AI, and it's so easy to take off and get inspired and just feel like you're doing a lot, can unfortunately lead you in the wrong direction if you're going 100 miles per hour, but you didn't look through the map at where you were going. You took a few wrong turns, and all of a sudden you're in, a completely different part of the state than you realized. And that's a lot of time that you might have invested in there, or a lot of resources or otherwise. And so with this challenge, the first thing I'm going to challenge everyone to start with is, first, your why. And we're going to get into, I would love to hear, as I'm sharing this stuff, guys, share with me your why. Like, what are you doing this for? And like, what is motivating you behind getting your idea out there right now? Maybe you have a book that you want to turn into more keynote speaking engagements. Maybe you just want to get better on camera, and you want to just start talking about what you are, because not enough people are hearing your message. And so we're going to work to change that. But I spent all morning working on this infographic I'm going to share you right now. Okay, it wasn't all morning, but I need you to confirm real quick, Kelly, that you can see my screen, because I don't want to start talking and you guys be looking at something.
Yes, AI powered human video podcast.
AI powered human video podcasting. And so this is something, this framework is basically what's been in my head for the past few months, since I've been like really trying to realign where we're going to be going with the launch of the Buyer's Brief book, and how does that lead to more people being able to leverage AI to create a greater impact. And so my process, and how essentially this whole challenge is going to get executed on, is we're all going to have that big idea starting over here on the left. I got a big idea. And that's me with the hat. And cool, I got a big idea now. Why would I like take action on this? Like, what's motivating me behind here? And that's where everything is going to start. And that's where I want everyone to get clear on. And for me, my why is creating a highly leveraged book funnel that can lead people into our done for you market sauce buyer's brief market research reports. And we've been doing this for the past 2 months, and it's been informing the content that I'm going to be filming for the video podcast that is going to be complementary to the book. And so honestly, even up to like a week and a half ago, I was thinking about taking the podcast a different direction, but then I realized it would actually have been a bit too split in my focus, and it wasn't aligned with where I wanted to go for everything to lead back to the book, to the done for you service, and then for just enrolling more people into the community who want to continue learning and being a part of these events to get better and better with AI. And so once that's the case, now what's the vision look like? And for me, my vision is making this, excuse me, my vision, and I'm looking at my whiteboard too, because I was writing a lot of this stuff up here, but ultimately my vision with this is to help people through the book turn their ideas into action and impact. And the entire process, the podcast is going to be around the entire book, starts with the buyer's brief. And we've got the content and the training inside of our community. You can pre-order the book right now. It's going to give you all of the ingredients of our recipe for creating these. But this is where you start, because you need to have that foundation first before you go and start spending a lot of time on the creating. You need to have that outline and that guide with it. And I know that over the past 2 years, really, it's been more than 2 years now that we've been teaching on like the content briefs and how you frame to get better content out of AI. That's all evolved into the buyer's brief. And so I really want that to be able to scale without my time involved with it, so that I am not always the bottleneck for getting this workflow into other people's hands and helping them execute on that workflow to make a great impact with it. And so that's my vision for doing this. And that's what everything right now is aligned at with Gen AI University at this point. It's why we're working on the book, and it's why we're doing the launch on March 14th here in Austin, Texas. And so once I've got that vision down, and very, like, frankly, I've been going through the book Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business, Gino Wickman. The first section of this is the vision, the entrepreneur operating system, the vision. And I would encourage everybody, if you haven't, to go through and look at what Traction is about and casting that vision, because it really helped me line up with, okay, this is my why, this is my vision, but what are the goals now? Once I had that vision laid out, what are the goals that are the SMART goals? And Kelly, I think you could talk to this as well with setting these goals, but what are the things that we need to do, or that we can set that are going to be achievable? Do I want to get 100 new subscribers to my video podcast? Do I want to get 1,000 new subscribers? What do I want those subscribers to look like in terms of maybe sales for my business? And that resource was Traction. I'm going to be working on a custom GPT that we'll be able to use to help people with this process, but it's not ready yet. That'll be available inside of our membership area. But that was Traction. And so once you got the goals set, now we're looking at action. And the reason that I've got all these connected here before impact is because action by itself can, like we said, you can lead you in the wrong direction without the proper why, the proper vision, the proper goals set up. Action can just, make a lot of work and make you feel like you're doing something, but it might not necessarily be aligned to making that impact. So I'm really looking here for aligned action that will ultimately, with all of these in line with the action, is going to help me with making a more direct and a greater impact. And with AI into these workflows and the action items that it's helping us, or it's enabling us to speed up the editing process, or coming up with ideas a bit faster, and taking a lot of the weight of some of these actions off of our shoulders, helpful to even make a faster impact and more aligned. And so once you make that impact, this all right here could be one episode of your video podcast. That could just be this could be the entirety of the thing. But once you've got the impact out there, now we've got ideas. We've got big ideas, and we want to share more things because we got a lot of smart people here, and we've got a lot of great ideas. And so aligning those ideas with a roadmap to best chance of success is what we're aiming for here. And you might not get it the first time. Some videos might totally flop. You might have a really, really killer video, but nobody's clicking on it on YouTube. And you can look at YouTube and you got a 1% click-through rate. Well, my goal is to get a 5% click-through rate on every video. And that number means that many more people actually watch the video, which means that many more people are getting my message. And so I'm not saying be clickbaity with your titles and with your images, but if nobody clicks on your stuff and nobody could watch what you have to say, and your message is falling flat because no one is there to hear it. And that is why you have to have your marketing hat on, and you have to be able to think, how is this actually going to get here? What's the benefit that I can get people in? And how am I going to do that with video? And so I would recommend, guys, just because I've been going through it, Traction is a great book. Kelly, I would love to hear you talk about your experience, because I know you've worked with Traction as well, and setting goals with this, because I can't tell you your why. I can't, this is your decision, and all of these are catered to your business. So Kelly, can you talk a little bit more about Traction and setting that vision and kind of setting your goals, and what maybe the framework that you're going to be using as we're going into this challenge?
Yeah, so Traction is a really interesting, I think, system, if you will, right? It's the EOS system. It stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. And it was written by Gino Wickman. I was asked to read it as part of a consultant with a law firm, interestingly enough, a few years ago. But Wickman essentially works with entrepreneurs who want to expand their businesses using this entrepreneurial operating system. And I think there are 6 tools, maybe the 6 fundamentals that EOS talks about, but one of them is about vision. Right. And Traction really talks about the importance of not only developing a strong vision, but being able to communicate that strong vision. So spending that time on being really clear around the vision, recognizing that if we don't have a clear vision in our business, we can't get a pulse on whether or not we are successful. We can't build procedures and operations around things that are going to lead us to our vision. We can't figure out how to bring that vision to life. I know Traction talks about what they call quarterly rocks, right? Which are basically like measurements that we're looking for. We can't have like a solutions oriented business. So if we don't know what problems are keeping us from reaching our vision, we can't solve them. And then more importantly, as we grow and scale our business, being able to get the right person in our team who is in alignment with our vision. And it's interesting, I think, because we talk about vision so much, right? And I feel like everybody watching would be like, yeah, I know you have to have a vision for your business. But Traction really dials into that nitty gritty framework behind exactly how your vision drives everything, right? It's not just about oh, I want to impact the world, which obviously is a great vision to have, but it's really about drilling down on that very clear vision, knowing that without that clarity of your vision, you can't build a business to reach it. Right. To me, it's it's like a bullseye target. Traction talks about how your vision has to be the bullseye. And I think many of us think we have a vision, but it's more like maybe the surrounding circles around the vision, which means we're allowed to hit the target, but we're never quite hitting the bullseye because we don't know exactly where to aim. And so, that's kind of how I think about Traction in terms of that vision. Is many of us probably have the target of where we want to go, but do we actually really know what is inside that bullseye, so we can drill down and really create in our businesses what we need to create to hit the middle of that target?
That's well said. And I think something that is coming up for me specifically, in that starting a business and going from 0 to 1 in that first sale is a powerful experience that an entrepreneur has to go through to get something started. And I remember starting my first business, it was very push, and trying to just figure things out. And over years, you start to figure it out, and you try something and it fails, and this and that or the other. I didn't pick up this book and actually read it until middle November 2023. And so I was like, okay, I need to take some time to just really, I couldn't get clear in my own head about what the direction was forward. And if I'm not clear on it, then the community is not clear on it. Then any of my partners that I'm working with are probably like, okay, but like, what does that really look like? And so if I can't articulate it as the leader of my business, then I'm not giving my team the resources and the communication that they need to be able to succeed. So I took a lot of time to start to dig into it. And of course, like probably many of you out there, if you're like me, buy a book. That's a great book. I'll read that. And then it's been on my shelf for probably a year or something like that. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Now's the time to do that. And then I realize all of the things that are going on through the vision, just like anything, just like the buyer's brief, it's an exercise, right? You go through it once. Okay, I'm more comfortable with how to go through this framework for making these decisions and setting goals, and then realizing, like, wow, like the things that had got me to even starting the community aren't going to be where they're going to take us to the next level. And so as any of us as entrepreneurs or leaders in our industry that are looking for ways to grow and lift up those around us, what got us here isn't necessarily going to be what's going to get us there. And it's going to take a lot of courage in a lot of cases to make these videos, to commit the content, to take the time and say, okay, my first 10 videos of this episode that I'm going to put all this time into might completely flop. And that's okay, because you're going to take that action forward and you're going to do it in such a way that you're not going to cut corners and not going to try and take shortcuts here, because that's just going to cause more work for you down the road. And I would love right now, Gigi, if you want to give me a thumbs up or something, if you're cool to come on, I would love to share your story a bit, and have you say hey to everyone and what you're going to be working on with yourself as a podcast. If any of you guys read my email out before this podcast, I'm coming off of a bachelor party weekend with one of my best friends, Austin Distal, which is definitely not like the traditional bachelor party we experienced. There was a lot of deep conversations and connections with new men on this in our network now. And Gigi was one of them that I met, who was such an inspiration for what he's done. And it's been making me really think about what does it mean to even be more of a great leader and an even better communicator and lifting those up. So Gigi, got the confirmation from you. So let me go ahead and I'm going to give you co-hosting rights right now. Garrett, right here. Garrett Gravidson inviting to the stage. Let's do this, because Gigi was not going to be taking this challenge a few days ago, and I said, man, you got to do this. You're getting paid what to go and keynote speak and travel around the world, and you don't have a YouTube channel, and you just started getting on LinkedIn, and it's already working for you. Come on, man. What's up, Garrett?
How is everybody doing?
All right. So glad to have you here, brother. Thanks for hopping in. Yes. And I would love to hear kind of like where you're at coming into this challenge right now. Share as much as you feel comfortable with about what us connecting over the weekend, but also I'd love to hear your why behind this and what's inspiring you to put the time into your schedule to make something like this happen.
Yes. So first of all, Kelly, I have no YouTube and no YouTube subscribers, so I'm right there with you.
All right.
So for anyone out there, we're all starting from zero, but I know we can grow. So yeah, I have an interesting background. I'll wrap it up in about 10 seconds because I wrote a book called 10 Seconds of Insane Courage. And I believe that life is really about those moments and those choices that really define ourselves. So I spent the last 20 years, I had one huge goal, which was to visit every country in the world, which was super crazy. There's 197 of them, which means you don't have to just get in, you have to get out as well. So fun stories about North Korea and other crazy places. But I just finished that last year. But it was because of an experience, and this is where the courage comes from, is I think a lot of times we fear failure. So one of the things I talked about is the fear of the first step. When we don't know something, we don't do something. And I loved what you just said, Darby, which is in my world of public speaking, I call it giving people permission to be awful. So we don't want to be awful for long, but we want to be awful at the beginning and be willing to get better, because we can't get to great unless we're good, and good becomes okay, and okay kind of starts with awful. So just giving ourselves to be awful in those first 5 or 10 podcasts, not knowing what we're doing, not having a clue, and maybe not even having people watch it. But I think that's the first step, is just giving ourselves permission to be awful. But yeah, my story started with my dad. My dad was my hero in life, and I love my father, and I always wanted to travel with him. But the quick story was we didn't come from money. He worked in the insurance business, and he worked for 40 years. And when he retired, he promised me we were going to get to do one father-son trip together. And he did. He finally retired after 40 years of working. And 30 days later, found out he had stage 4 cancer and a year left to live. And probably like a lot of people on here, I was an entrepreneur. I had a leadership consulting firm. I thought life was good. And then something like this happens, and it makes you really reevaluate what's most important. And I took time off. I moved in with my dad. I became his caretaker. And we went through 9 rounds of chemo and 10 rounds of radiation. And I just said, I think life is more about the quality of life that we live, and how can we take advantage and have the courage in the moments to do things that we'll really, truly always remember. So we came off the chemo and the radiation, and I said, well, I live in Atlanta, Georgia. What's the most close, fun place we can go? And I took my dad down to Cuba, and it was the greatest memory of just a father and a son, and something we would always have. And I bought him one of those straw hats and a big fat Cuban cigar, which is not what you're supposed to do in the moment. The doctor certainly didn't order it, but it was something that we had, and we had the courage to do it. And we had a beautiful memory. And my dad passed away 3 months later. And I asked my dad, I said, would you give me one piece of advice before he passed away? And he said, I'd want you to do one thing you'd be insanely proud of, and do it now. And during that year together, I journaled and I wrote and I researched these fears that hold us back and the courage that we need to overcome it. I call them the 8 fear factors. But really, in my world, in my worldview, I think it comes back to courage. I call it insane courage. And I just hope to be a small little light in people's lives to share that insane courage. I think we all have a story, and I think a lot of people need a little bit of encouragement and motivation. And so I've never collected these stories. I've never shared them. I do it in speeches, but never on video. I speak at a lot of corporate audiences of how do we have the courage to lead at a higher level and be more purposeful in our business and our life. But yeah, Darby, I give you a lot of credit. We met over the weekend and you said, how do you not have a YouTube channel? How are you not sharing these stories? You've been to all the countries in the world, and there's so many probably small acts and leadership lessons that you could share. And sometimes it just takes one person. So Darby, I just want to thank you. I signed up last night. I don't even know how to put my little picture in my little profile. So I think it still says Gigi, but all my friends call me Gigi. You can call me Gigi. And I hope to just start sharing more about the lessons I've learned around the world, the courageous people I've learned, the courageous businesses I've got to see, and hopefully share that and inspire others along the way. But that's my story. I'm happy to be here. I'm starting at 0 with everybody else. And Kelly, I'll be right there with you throughout this whole journey.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Garrett, for sharing that in that story and having the courage to say yes to this. And I thank you for being open to it, just as everyone here that is a part of our community, that is subscribing to us on YouTube and has been a part of my journey. I get the most fulfillment when what we're trying to accomplish here and helping people use this stuff to better their business and their life, take it and run with it. Like that, to me, is the greatest victory out of anything inside of here. I think, Kelly, you resonate with that as maybe an educator as well, as when the student, like whatever, surpasses the teacher, you're like, that now, and then I know I did my job because now you like took it and run with it. Mm-hmm. And so it's I'm grateful for everyone that has shown up here and that is committed to continuing to get better every day, every week, every month, every year. in business and life, of course, as we're entrepreneurs, we're lifelong learners and we're always looking for ways to grow. And with this new technology at our fingertips, we're on the frontier of stuff that we can never have imagined, but boy, is it exciting to be right here on the frontier. So yeah.
It is. And something when many of you know that I teach college also, I start every college class, and I've been doing this for years, with thank you for showing up. Right. And I always tell them, like, whatever's going to happen in the time that we're together is going to happen. Like, maybe you're going to fall asleep. Maybe you're going to think about what you're eating when the class is over. Right. But like, the most important step that you could have taken today was just showing up. Right. Because so many people just don't show up for so many reasons. And that's always like the biggest decision that you can make, is just to show up. And like you said, it may be messy. It may not be perfect. We may get off track. But yeah, I think everybody just watching this, everybody watching the replay, like, you've made the biggest decision you can make in this area of your life, which is just showing up for this challenge.
Absolutely. And with that, Garrett, I don't know if you can bounce off the stage here, if you want to hang out in the crowd. I want to hear what everyone else is going to be creating content about in this challenge. And while you do that, I'm going to walk you through the format that I'm going to be using. And then Kelly, I'd love you to share kind of like where you're going to be taking the approach at. And then also, as a member inside of our community, just all bundled in one monthly membership, you're going to get access to, of course, all of our library of resources, but everything in real time as we're creating and sharing it inside of our community. I opened up a new space just this morning specifically for this event, and we'll be sharing standard operating procedures that I use, best practices for growing and posting things on organic that are created from marketers that are doing this at a much higher level, with larger organizations. Kind of like, what are best practices right now in this space? What are some custom GPTs that we're going to be developing over the next few weeks to help you guys with gaining that traction, to creating, converting titles, YouTube, thumbnail graphics, descriptions, how to set up your channel, and all that stuff we're going to be sharing. And it's not just going to be me, guys. It's going to be a lot of you that are part of this community that are video pros and like have years of experience beyond me in this field, working with clients and agencies and otherwise. And not to say I don't have experience, because I know I've been doing this for a few years now, and I've got some experience under my belt. But I just want to highlight that it's not just going to be like the Darby and Kelly show here. This show is just as much a spotlight on every single member that has the courage to say, yes, I'm going to commit the time, I'm going to commit to getting better, and I'm going to do it by going through this challenge with a group of people that are doing it together and taking that momentum to gain that traction and gain momentum. So the format that I'm going to be doing, and I told you I was kind of back and forth even just a week and a half ago on it, but because the book is coming out and we're putting in an order for some advanced reader editions that we can use and kind of have at our book launch, because everything is kind of happening so fast, like I need to keep all of my focus on the book. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mini video podcast series on each of the different sections of the book. And those of you that have been following, and if you've pre-ordered it, thank you so much for your support. Introducing the buyer's brief. What is this about? In the market sauce method, which you can watch the workshop right now on our YouTube for free for a much more in-depth overview of like what this whole process looks like, but then all the individual sections of it. So what's the buyer's blueprint? And so we're going to have an episode just on the buyer's blueprint at the beginning. So it's focused on that. And so it's all of these are going to be complementary to each of the sections inside of the book. So you're reading the book, you say, okay, now we're going to go into the creative and strategic brief. Here's the context and the framework, and here's the examples and case studies. If you want to go and hear kind of like more commentary, more behind the scenes, more of me sharing what this specifically is and how it can apply, we're going to have an episode on that. We're going to have an episode on brand style guides, on micro content. And for that one, I might tap Kelly and say, hey, you want to hop on here and talk about micro content for an episode? These will be quick episodes, maybe 10, 20 minutes, like not a lot. Maybe some might take a little bit more time, but all of those episodes are just going to be like little chunks that I'm going to edit, and we're going to put intros and maybe an outro on them after each episode. And we're going to set those up. And I'm aiming for 10 episodes. We're going to set those up as a podcast playlist on YouTube. And so the first thing anybody here should do, once you've kind of got your why in place and what are you doing right here, if you don't already, just go ahead and start your YouTube channel. It doesn't have to be perfect, not anything there, but go ahead and get started on that point and just, play around and see what the YouTube channel looks like. And I say YouTube because I think it's the obvious choice for anyone that's going to make it a lot easier here. But then also keep in mind, once you're creating the content audio version, maybe it's yourself and it's just you talking to the camera. Maybe you have an editor or a designer. Maybe you want to work with design tools yourself to do that. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of editing, but we're going to be sharing a lot of the, specifically like super fancy editing. But I've got resources and processes that we've used with our own team members in the past that can help you and also gives resources as your team. So go through the episode playlist like that. You can take the audio and you could publish it on your Spotify podcast. You can publish the audio on your Apple podcast. And there's so many ways that you can repurpose and redistribute that audio. You can take clips from each episode and then repurpose those. And so my goal, aligned with the book, is that this podcast series is going to complement the book perfectly. And it's going to give me probably 12 months of content, or at least another like 3 to 6 months worth of content that I can consistently have out there, being chopped up and being repurposed and redistributed. And it's going to live on YouTube. So that means that it's going to continue to grow and grow over time, so long as I'm actually doing the things that are like what people are looking for, right? And so I don't think every episode is going to be a hit, but I do know that if I have 10 episodes out there and I have titles for all the episodes and I have thumbnails for them and I've got engagement and I can lead people back to this podcast episode series, that it's going to be an organic growing video that I can see the data and the stats of in YouTube. I can see the data, I can get the stats, and I can then make more informed decisions about what I need to be doing if I want to start season 2, or for what I want to be doing for the next book because of the questions that are going on in there. But right now, if I don't really want to just fill my mind up with questions that I have no need to even be thinking and asking those questions right now, because I want my focus to be on making this book the best it possibly can, and then letting the response back from that help with informing what is the content that we're going to create next. And if I'm listening and if I'm interacting with people that are getting value from this content, our audience is going to give us exactly what they want to do next. Like, it's not, I don't need to make it up in my head. I'm just going to listen. And that's why I want to encourage you, as well as you're going through this process, what are the most common questions that you get in your business that if you could answer all of those before anyone did business with you, would it make the decision to do business with you that much easier, or help them with getting a result with something that a product that you're putting out, or a process that you help people with? So asking the right questions and, being open to listening, and okay that you don't have all the answers, because none of us do. And I have no idea most of the time whether or not a video is going to do great or not. I do have an idea if like a thumbnail might do better, might not. Like our thumbnails right now that are showcasing Alex Hormozi's books tend to get a lot better click-through rates than one where I give like a kind of a gobbled up AI generated brain. Like, it looks okay, but it's not as, there's a number of factors here than just the image, and what's the title here, and then how are you describing the image, and a number of things, and that matters. So there's a lot of things that you could look at that are going to help you with creating better and more successful videos. You need to start putting them out there to actually get the data back in the first place. And so much of our first book challenge was about getting out there and publishing that minimum viable book, getting the results back, and then editing and modifying things from there. Well, think of this as a minimum viable video podcast, right? What maybe it's only 3 episodes that you want to produce in your first season. I just found a band that I absolutely have been just eating up, like listening to their albums nonstop. They've got 3 albums out now. I was like, when did these guys even really start? And I looked back to 2016 on their Spotify, and they got like their first album, if you want to call it that, is like 1 or 2 songs. I'm like, interesting. your video podcast that you could take on in this challenge is producing one video. And that could be it. And maybe if it's just one video, maybe you want to like put a little bit more time into like the editing and the quality of it and testing it out and like doing that. I'm going to be doing 10 micro episodes, but I'm going to be filming it as if I'm going to be filming one full video. And so I'm going to block off like a 2 or 3 hour time period, do all of my filming in one batch, and then I'm going to go through the editing process here. And so I'll have a full video, and then I'll have 10 separate videos within that that are going to be structured in such a way that they're optimized to be individual video clips. So there's an idea for you. But also, Kelly, what's your approach going to be throughout this challenge?
I don't know yet.
Hey, we're all being honest here, guys. Like, who's not sure? Like that's It's totally cool to not be sure.
Is everybody's head spinning like mine is? I have tons of ideas, right? But like going with traction, right? Like knowing, like, I really just have to be clear on like, what is my current vision, right? And I also want to recognize, I feel like sometimes we have different visions, like different buckets, right? Of things that we want to achieve. But I'm on the fence. Like, obviously a lot of you guys know I do a lot of like micro course creation. Now the new iteration is micro courses powered by AI. That's a big piece of my business. And I've also been doing a lot of speaking and consulting on this new keynote that I developed at the end of 2023, which was basically starts with AI won't work for most of your businesses. Right. And it's recognizing what you know, Darby, is if there's no process, procedure, system, then there's no prompt to create, right? And if there's no prompt or nothing to tell AI, then AI isn't going to generate results. And there's so many people out there, not in our community, but outside of our community, that are just going blindly using tools like AI. So I'm kind of like, okay, like those are two things I think I could create series around, really, because I've got my micro course on micro courses, so that can easily become a series, leading people back into that low ticket micro course. And there's definitely pieces of that keynote that I could come and create a series around, whether it's book a consultation call or whatever it may be. So that's kind of where I'm juggling, trying to figure out which one do I want to focus on. And I definitely see some kind of micro series, right? Because I talk a lot about micro content, because that's kind of, what I do is doing like a 5 or 7 part series, micro series on how to do the thing. So I'm kind of just thinking about what content do I already have that's out there that I know people are interested in, that is, has converted, and how do I take that content and turn it into the launch of my YouTube, of my audio podcast, and doing something that's won't make me reinvent the wheel, right? It'll just allow me to kind of capitalize on the content that I've already created and then just repurpose it and get it out there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. For those of you joining, you guys will hear as we move along, I was telling Darby, like, I'm going to be like the quick and dirty. How do I take what I have and just get YouTube content out there, just because I'm starting, right? And so, I was like, I'm not buying all the things. I'm not spending tons of money on the microphone. I'm going to be the participant model of anyone who's like, how do I just do this bare minimum, but do it well? So that's kind of what I'm looking at. It's just like, what is the content that I have that is already there? Yeah, scrappy but good, Chris, right? Like quality, let's call it like quality scrappy. But yeah, because there's a lot of us that are like, I just want to do the thing and I want to do it well, but do I want to make the investment and build a studio and like all of that stuff? I think it's important for us to recognize we can follow your system and come out with something really good and not have to take it to the next level yet. So that's where I'm heading. I'm like really just thinking like which part of my content that I have is the best place to start.
Totally. And that makes me want to ask you then, Kelly, of the speaking engagements, keynotes that you've been giving, how much of those you already have recorded right now? Is it just one that you've got offhand? Do you have like a series of 3 to 5 already?
I have a lot. And I think that's what I was telling you earlier is just with you and I and all of the workshops we've done, the free live trainings, I've run a lot of workshops. There's a lot of footage from some of those different keynotes. There's a lot out there that almost could just be like, how do I take this and turn this into, chop it up and turn it into a series, right?
Yeah. Well, let me give you an idea, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there in that position. And even just thinking back, as you said that, a video we posted a week ago was from a summit that I'd filmed 3 months ago, that I had the recording is just sitting there. I was like, whatever, like it's like I did it. I was like, that was like a pretty good demonstration. Let me just film a 1-minute intro and throw it up on our YouTube channel with like a super quick, like, here's the 2 books and ChatGPT logo and like $100 million workflow. Like, cool, like have at it. Like, hopefully it is helpful. And we've already got over 114 likes on it and like 2,400 views in about a week. And I was like, wow, that was by far. I hope I'm not making numbers up here, but I don't think we've ever gotten a video with over 100 likes on it. I think that's probably a lot more than the last amount we had on it. And it was kind of a last minute like decision to be like, yeah, I don't want to film anything today. Let me just grow this. I'll do like a quick intro video and then that. But let me tell you this, the intro video obviously led into like good content, but we followed that 1-minute video sales letter framework that if any of you guys have watched the content we've done with John Benson in the past, and that hooking and keeping attention, right? Is like, what does that format look like? Kelly and anyone out there that has a lot of videos and content, can you write an outline of this is what a 7-part video series would be? Can you identify the topics that you would talk about for each one of the 7 parts? And then would you be able to identify the parts in your keynotes that you could clip out to really specifically talk? Maybe it's a 5-minute spot, maybe it's a 15-minute spot. But if you can identify that, and if you know you can, then take a step back and say, cool, I just need to now make 7 different intros that give people context. And that's where like a lot of our initial YouTube videos had 0 context. I'd film a video in our boot camp and throw it up. And it's like, someone comes in like, what is Jasper? Like, words are appearing on a screen. Like I sort of know what's happening here, but there was no structure with it. And so the more structured you can get in whatever that structure is, like that could be a really leveraged way to take your existing content, film those 7 videos. Hey, Kelly, this is X, Y, or Z. We're going to be talking about this. Like or subscribe for whatever. And if you want to go deeper, our course is available right now at here. Boom. Video, value, they subscribe, and then on to the next one. And I bet there's a lot. I bet there's a lot of you guys out there that could already have the content and could very quickly take a method like that and then just put a fresh spin on it with a new recording. This script, like you're going to be using, Kelly, very, very powerful tool, and it's very easy to have a video on, cut out certain areas in it, and then just insert a new video, and like you can be done in a week with that for something, as long as you know the spots. But so I'm saying, like, I just wanted to call out that because it's right there in front of you. And like, then what does success look like with that video? Does it look like course sales or otherwise? Because once you have your own podcast, sure, once you get big enough, like you start getting sponsorships and engagements, people start wanting to send you products. And like, I don't get people throwing products at me right now, just so you guys like know, like I do get hit up by different companies that say like this, that, or the other. So, I mean, it does happen, but it's a consistency thing, and you got to grow the channel over time. And the big sponsorships can be great down the road, but also if you have your own business and your own products, boom, immediately you've got a platform and a channel that you can start to like plug your own products and your content in. And so like, where's the congruency here, Kelly? And like, maybe like, what does success look like to you if you were to have a 7-part mini series?
Okay. While you were talking, I have my idea. I'm going to say it out loud because this community is a safe place, but it's something that I've been thinking about that actually is part of my business, but not directly related to Teacher Brilliance. I have all of those Women Who AI Summit interviews that are sitting tucked behind a vault. And as you know, Darby, I don't know how much we've announced it to the community, but the next round of the Women Who AI Summit is going to drop at the end of February. And I just know that part of my, like, this is more of a passion project, right? But part of my vision is that we really just grow this brand of Women Who AI and grow the community of Women Who AI, empowering more women to be spotlighted, because of all the cool things that are happening in that space. And so I'm wondering how I can use some of those interviews from the first and second Women Who AI Summit. And that's the podcast that I create, right? Is from all of those interviews, spotlighting the really amazing things that females are doing in the AI space.
It's perfect. And it's a great example of being able to work with other people who are influential in your industry and giving them a stage that also gives them a really easy way to share the content that you guys have created together. And so you've already done the work. Like, it's probably an imaginary lift of just coming off your shoulders to know that you don't have to go through and film a bunch more content this week. You just need to film a little bit of content, organize some stuff, and put it out there. But once you do that work once, if that takes you just 1 week here, you're going to be seeing the results from that just continue to grow and compound the more and more, especially if you're consistently putting out some content along the way. But I mean, an example of a guy I met a few weeks ago at his book launch here in Austin, Brian, I think his last name is Lucan, something like that. He had a 9-to-5 corporate job, was top salesperson in his category, and was basically on the route to climb the corporate ladder and do the thing. He realized that like all of his bosses hated what they did, and he's like, that's not something I actually want to like optimize for. And so then he started getting into real estate investing and buying up some doors and doing that thing, and started to grow his own podcast. And his podcast is basically just like hopping on a quick call, like a video conference call with he's been 200 or 400. I want to say it's 400. It's 400, I believe. 400 daily podcast posts of interviews with millionaires.
Wow.
Obviously, you got to like get those conversations going and open. But the thing with these like podcasts, that doesn't mean like every single day he's like waking up like, interview call. Okay, cool. Like he's not frantically running to it. Like, like the Entrepreneur on Fire podcast was like, I think just totally broke people's minds with how John Lee Dumas would do these podcasts. But he would do like 30 interviews in one day, stack them like 15-minute bite sizes. And then his team and him would just like edit and do all the content. And then suddenly you've got this bank of content that you can start to post and schedule out. And so batching the content and doing that, it's a great way to get ahead of the game. Then as you're dripping it and posting it, now you can spend your time actually being social on social media instead of just being exhausted because you put all this time behind content and don't have any energy to even get online, right? Like, where are we batching that energy and creating these assets? And I want to highlight the word asset here, because like these videos, you never know when somebody's going to be looking up something that your video is ranking for and watching on YouTube. They connect it. They say, oh, wow, Kelly is talking about AI and then micro courses, and I could do micro courses because I posted that video 8 months ago, and someone just came into my course because of that. Like that, this stuff happens all the time. But I'll tell you when it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen when you don't have a channel to post the stuff on, right? And so it starts with step one. It starts with committing to taking the action to take this challenge, and then just aligning your action with your why, with your vision. What's the reason behind this? What are the goals? And then how are we lining all of that up so that you can make a greater impact with your ideas? And then let's keep the ball rolling. Let's keep connecting with other influencers in your space. Let's keep using other people's audiences to get you on their podcasts. It's a very reciprocal ask in a lot of cases. You say, hey, like, I'd love to invite you here, build that relationship. Oh, maybe we could go on your podcast. I could share with your community. And, there's a lot of growth that can come from this by simply having a stage that you can like be interested in somebody else on. And as much as it is like, Kelly, I love listening to what you talk about micro courses, because you're just so good at teaching it. And like, it's interesting to me. And you're like, you don't like make me feel weird about not having a micro course, and you just, just very approachable. Like I do have one, but I'm saying like it's very approachable to start a micro course. And so I'm like, cool. Well, Kelly and I were introduced to each other through the Scale with AI Summit back in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because I asked another person, Molly Mahoney, is like, hey, like I would love to put you highlighted on our summit. She's like, and she did do one. She did a pre-recorded video, and they said, oh, I need to connect you with Kelly. It's like, cool, awesome. And then that led to probably, a lot more impact with people inside of the community, even people here that have learned from you. And our relationship has grown over the years. And I think we interviewed like 18 or 20 different experts and people in our community at that point. But just goes to show that, like, if anything for me out of that summit, I got really great relationships with Kelly. We learned that like this is a great experience to go through, and we were able to replicate that model to help with the scale with the Woman Who AI, and realize that, wow, we spent a lot of time creating an asset, doing the video stuff, setting up the interviews. Well, now instead of taking me 5 hours to get this thing set up, it could take me like 50 minutes to get it set up. Because I just cloned the things and we just changed some copy, and it's like, oh, boom, done, super fast. And so like, what is the byproduct of going through this for anyone that's creating a video podcast right now, that you're going to be able to see other gains in? And maybe that's, again, the relationships you're making, whether that's you just getting better on camera. Maybe that is, giving you, a reason to upgrade your office or desk because you've had an idea about what the whole environment could be and look like. But also it could be as simple as just getting your phone out and shooting 10 minutes of content and posting it and sharing it and getting it out there. And so super excited to see where everybody takes this over the course of this challenge, and to obviously learn and grow together, but see about new ways that we're going to be able to leverage AI to just make this process fast, streamlined, efficient, and ultimately coming back in to grow our business. And we'll keep adapting as things change, but wouldn't rather do it anywhere but besides this community. And so I'm excited to dive in here with everybody else. And we're kicking things off with an initial post tomorrow, which will have this replay set up in it. But also, Kelly, you're going to be hopping on some calls this month. You're going to be checking in with people on the week. What can people expect that are part of the community now? Or maybe they're watching this somewhere on YouTube and they're considering, is this something for me? Should I? And you could go and do this on your own, by all means. And anybody can go and do this with just a YouTube account and a phone to record something like that. What are we going to be doing within our community, Kelly? And you've got some stuff set up, so I want you to talk on this right now for the actual support and the accountability throughout it all.
Well, obviously, as you shared, we have our our space inside the community that is going to be dedicated to the people that are what I like to say, crawl, walk, running in this challenge. And we have our bi-weekly Q&A bootcamp calls. So those calls during the iteration of the challenge are going to be all about troubleshooting. What's everybody doing? Here's where I am. I have a quick question, X, Y, and Z. Those calls are amazing because there's so many people that come on in the community that I have found it's more like a mastermind. People are like, what's the solution to this? Other people are like, I'm sharing this tool that's been working really well. So those calls are going to be focused Q&As where people can come on, get help, ask for ideas, ask for support, share what they've been doing, share what's working, what's not working. And then a lot of you know that I just love the micro coaching concept. And I know that, those smaller, quicker check-ins are really the things that help us stay in action and move the needle. So on Mondays, we're going to be doing a, like, what are you working on this week? What are your goals? It could be like, just, I'm going to record 10 videos. It could be like, I'm going to buy a new microphone, right? Wherever you're at in this journey, you'll be able to check in with us. And then on Friday, we're going to have a follow-up accountability post where people can, did you do the thing? Where did you get caught up? Here were my barriers, so that you can get just some support from the rest of the community, whether it's cheering you on or it's helping you troubleshoot or get past those barriers. So there's going to be different types of support depending on the kind of support you like, how much time you have, how much support you actually want, whether it's coming onto those calls or just checking in on the posts. But I think it's going to be a really great variety for everybody going through this to be able to pick and choose the kind of support that they want so that they can be successful at the end of the 30 days.
Absolutely. And I'll be sharing a lot as well that just kind of comes up as we're going through the challenge, because like I said, I'm going to be going through my whole process that I described out earlier. And I'm sure there's things that I'm going to forget about that I've done in maybe the past that would be good not to do. Like, hey, here's what to avoid if you're going at this from this certain angle. But also like, hey, here's a few tools that I found really effective. Or again, there's kind of like, why would you want to record your podcast on a platform called Riverside instead of Zoom? Well, both work, but I've been experimenting with Riverside more lately, and just so you just, this is the type of stuff we'll be talking about. Zoom is really good and really easy to get things started and going, but I realized the quality on these Zoom videos was just nowhere near where I wanted it to be, and I was just losing quality when I didn't really have a need to lose on quality for some of the videos, especially I was looking to record. Tested out Riverside. It's been a great program, and it's not the only one by any means. There's a lot of different programs out there. So I'll just be sharing what I'm using, what I'm finding to be effective in my workflows right now. And we've been discussing a few different maybe like prompts and GPTs and stuff that will help with the specific areas of the process. Like I've created a recipe around YouTube titles and descriptions and thumbnails that is based on just some analysis of Mr. Beast. I don't claim to have done I don't know exactly what Mr. Beast does on all of his videos, but a lot of the things that go to, FOMO, urgency, like what is the big contrast between a lot of these successful YouTube videos and titles, and using that to actually take the content that you create and then create the title along with it to create consistency with it. Because you don't want to have a thumbnail and a title that it says one thing and then someone gets on to what did I just click on? Your viewership is going to drop, and it's not going to be as beneficial to you because you're not getting good results on the video, and YouTube will likely not, be as friendly to pushing you in the algorithm if the video is not aligned with the content that you're saying is in the video. So a lot of those little things that, again, you kind of learn and figure out and tweak with over time. And so we'll be sharing resources as to what are the top metrics that you want to be looking at on a YouTube video podcast channel specifically. What are some of the other ways to expand your reach once you get the podcast created, like redistributing it to Spotify and maybe building on top of it. I did start a Spotify podcast, but I haven't posted anything on it. I don't even think you could find me if you even searched on it right now, but I've got it there to then take the content and carry it over. And we'll be doing stuff like that, sharing what's winning on that front, and then checking in, holding each other accountable, and masterminding as to what's working and what's not, and where can we help people overcome any kind of roadblocks or barriers to ultimately achieve that success that we're all looking for. So I'm pumped about it. Kelly, excited that you are going to be diving in, doing the work with us, and everybody else here who is going to be jumping in the board. We have a lot of great tools to share. And again, this is a very community-focused event. I'm not going to be doing it on Facebook or any social media channel. We've got our own community hosted inside of the Circle app, which will facilitate all the conversation, all the recordings, and the resources. So again, if you're not a member, consider joining if this sounds like something that you'd find valuable and useful. And otherwise, everyone here, I would love to support you guys as well as you're starting your channels and getting things going. And so while we're inside of the community doing this, I want to see people sharing their channels, sharing your cover arts. Use this as a place to get feedback. Hey, I'm considering this topic or this topic. This is what I have at my disposal. These are the resources I'm working with. Constraints can often lead to creative breakthroughs. And by giving ourselves constraints, Kelly's saying no, I'm not going to go spend a bunch of money on this podcast stuff. I don't I'm not going to go and film a bunch of new content. I'm going to go find my old content. I'm only going to spend 10 hours doing all of this to make an effective thing. Okay, well, now we've given our constraints. How can we get creative with hitting our goals and our results given those restraints and constraints? And all of this in mind, again, it's all going to go back down to us supporting each other inside of the community. So I'm excited to see you guys in there, and encourage everybody on to get your video podcast out there using AI to help with powering that podcast production, but keeping the human the focus and creating that human to human connection with your target audience. Develop those deep insights and understandings to grow your channel and grow your business. So with all that said, guys, we are coming up here kind of at the top of our time that we had blocked off for this. I am open to staying on a bit longer if you guys have any questions or I want to share anything specifically in the comments. So if you do, now's the time to do that. And otherwise, guys, we got a great week ahead from here. Like I said, we're filming this on a Thursday. It is February 8th. We'll be dropping some posts inside of our group tomorrow on a Friday, and then we'll really be hitting things full steam ahead come Monday next week. And so if you're going into this live with us right now, I would recommend starting with your why and getting clear on what's that podcast going to be, spending more time thinking about it. Maybe step away from a computer. Think about how are you going to be approaching this process and getting ready and settled in so that when the time comes to hit the ground running, we are all ready to rock and roll. And with that said, let's go ahead and sign off here, guys, for this call. We will see you inside the community for the AI-powered human video podcast challenge. My name is Darby Rollins, along with our co-host, Kelly Tenney. We'll see you inside. Keep calm and AI on. Cheers, y'all.
Everybody.